the honours. Welcome to another episode of the Alphawaves Pod.
Yes, indeed.
In the building with your hosts, Kam and Darren.
Mm-hmm.
How are you today?
I'm good today.
Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm all right, I'm good, to be fair. It's good, to be fair. Not as good as you, apparently.
I'm in a great mood. I don't know why. It's just one of those days.
You had a good week or something?
No, actually.
No.
You know what? A little bit. Maybe.
What's been the highlight of your day?
That's so weird you say that. I was going to ask you that.
Really?
I swear.
Let's not.
The highlight of my day today, you know what? I had a really nice bowl of watermelon.
Okay.
And it was really nice. Yeah, it was really refreshing.
I saw someone talking about doing a watermelon fast. Who was it?
Oh, I don't know about that. Just watermelon.
Yes, I feel like who is it? I can't remember. But it was talking about they had an injury and then they was having inflammation on their shoulder or something. Then they had like a watermelon fast from like Thursday to Sunday and it stopped everything and
no
they
way.
recovered and whatever else and they're feeling better and stronger.
Maybe I will do that then.
Can't remember who it was though.
Because I had some eggs,
For the
some
life of
kale
me.
chips, some watermelon, some strawberries. I had a good eating day. I think that's why I'm so happy.
You think that contributes to your mood?
I think so.
They say you are what you eat and stuff like that, right?
They do.
But have you noticed
I'm
when you do eat
fruitalicious.
healthy that you do feel... What are we talking about today?
I've been annoying you since I walked in.
Let's just stop my sentence right there.
Misery just loves company, doesn't it? No,
I'm
I'm
not
joking.
miserable. First
I'm
of
joking.
all. First of all, let's not do that. I'm definitely not miserable.
Oh, I'm kidding.
But we are here today to talk about something.
Yes, we are. We have come with purpose, and that purpose is escapism.
Yeah, so on escapism, what's your go-to?
When you said you had a question for me, I had no idea you were going to put me on the spot. You want to see this mood come down, don't you?
Your go-to could be laughter.
Oh my God, maybe actually.
So what you're escaping from right now.
You know
See,
what? I was in a good mood, but suddenly I need some watermelon.
You see how life works.
No, okay. I have a different question to ease us in.
Okay.
Because
we're not dropping that. We can put a pin in it and we'll come
We'll
back
put
to
a
it.
pin in it. We'll put a pin in it.
Cool.
But my question, when you think of escapism, what's the first thing that comes into your head? Could be anything. Like, is there a synonymous word? Does it have a positive or negative connotation to you? Does an image of a type of person come into your head? What's the first thing?
For my life personally, or just in general when I think of the word?
In general, but I guess in your life personally.
As they're two very different things. If I think of escapism in general, it's not really what I think of escapism when I apply it to myself, which is quite strange, I think.
That is strange.
Because for myself, I know my escapism isn't like deep rooted. Like it's all like lighthearted and funness and more like taking a break from all the busy stuff that I do and work and creation and all of these things.
Yeah.
Whereas when I look at escapism in general, I do kind of attach it to what are you trying to get away from? Which is a big difference. Because when I'm talking about myself, I don't think about what am I trying to get away from, because what I'm trying to get away from, it's all relative, but what I'm trying to get away from doesn't feel so bad.
So is yours, would you say, more intentional when you are experiencing escapism?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's the key. Like, that's the difference for me between what makes escapism a positive or a negative thing in your life. You know, like if you're using escapism to literally escape from something or fall into something, because I feel like you can fall into a habit of escapism as well.
Yeah.
Then it can be a negative thing. But if you're using it mindfully, like this is my moment to just plug out of the world and plug into something for myself, then that's a different thing.
Do you think you always do it consciously?
me personally.
Yeah, you personally.
No. I think I have gotten better, but I definitely had a habit of escapism and like an avoidance issue, I feel.
What does a habit of escapism look like? You don't need to go into like fine details if it's personal.
No, I'm just trying to think which escapist thing am I gonna refer to? What does it look like? I think so many happen subconsciously. I'll give an example of a really subconscious one, was escaping through social media.
Okay.
Yeah, so especially TikTok, because it's so quick, so fast, so much information that is mainly meaningless and for entertainment comes at you so quickly. So it became a form of escapism. And even like, say if I was experiencing an uncomfortable emotion or something like that, then I'd automatically pick up my phone and go to TikTok and just be on there for a minute.
Do you think all entertainment is escapism then? Like consuming entertainment?
I don't think you can really put a blanket statement on that, because I know someone personally who really utilizes Instagram, for example. Like all their content is stuff that inspires them or activates them in a positive way, because they know that they look at their phone first thing in the morning, so they want to make sure that what they're looking at is good. My algorithm is a bit different.
What's I saw something like that. Someone said, like, if you look at this person's explore page and you see X, Y, and Z, that paints a picture of them.
You know, I don't think my explore page is an accurate picture of the whole of me, but it definitely would show that the internet for me is a form of escapism, because all my stuff is like pop culture or this or that, or nothing really
of any use.
All right, it's not what those weren't my words, but
no, like nothing tangible. Yeah. Like it's just all entertainment and
all entertainment. My Instagram is a bit more inspirational, or like funny things and memes and stuff, but TikTok is so random and nothing is very useful.
How long do you think it takes to change your timeline?
On TikTok?
Just in general, just like in terms of the things that you consume.
I'd say, and this is so specifically random or randomly specific, but I would say 3 days. For me personally, if I stick to something for 3 days, I'm in a momentum of that thing, be it positive or not serving me.
So that's like your social timeline, yeah? So in your moments of escapism, is it a similar time frame? Like if you stick to something for 3 days,
that crept up on me because it's so accessible, so easy, so addictive, like so much is happening at once. And then I was literally looking at myself and realizing, oh my God, you're on this all the time. Like even when I'm writing or creating, and I'm, you know, as you're naturally, if you're a writer, you'll probably know, like when you're in a flow and then you stop out of a flow for a second, that's when I'll just go to my phone. Or even when I'm feeling really inspired and I'm feeling all this energy and it's just too much, I just go to my phone.
You do that as well?
Yeah.
I found myself doing that the other day and I'm like, what am I doing? Because I was literally in the middle of something. It's not like I was having a low moment. I picked up my phone and I went onto my timeline and I was like, what am I doing? And I closed my phone and went back to what I was doing.
Same. It's so subconscious. Like it feels weird to not have it in my hand for a long period of time.
But it helped me to gather my thoughts though, which was crazy. Like I was obviously doing something. Then I was like, hold on, let me just take a... I don't know, subconsciously I think this is what happened. I was doing something, but I was in the flow or something, and then I was just like, let me gather my thoughts. And for that split second while I'm gathering my thoughts, I've gone to my social media. I can't remember what it was, Instagram, Twitter, whatever.
But did it help you gather your thoughts?
When I closed it, it went, oh yeah. I looked on it, then I caught myself in what I was doing. Like, why am I on this when I'm meant to be doing that? Closed it, and then I went straight back to what I was doing. Fine. But that was all a subconscious thing. It's only now on reflection I realised what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, see, good for you, but I get caught in the...
But is that escapism, though? That's not escapism. That just feels like distraction.
Yeah, I guess so. That does sound like a distraction. I think for me, And I'll be super honest, like as soon as I wake up, I'm on TikTok, and then I'm just there for
Really?
like an hour. Yeah. And then before I sleep and throughout the day, it takes up so much of my time. Like you just kind of escape your life through looking at other people's lives. And it started informing my own thoughts and self-image from what I was taking in, because it feels so brief and so meaningless that you don't think you're absorbing any of it within your being. And then, for instance, like there's so many videos of women talking about men and relationships and all the different ways that a man just does not like you and all this stuff, you know? And I didn't realize it until I was reflecting that it was actually making me feel really insecure and affecting the way that I was moving in my things. But yeah.
What do you think triggers your moments of like escapism? Is it how you're feeling? Is it how you're thinking?
That's a subconscious thing. And now that you said it, I'm not sure if escapism is the correct word, but I think I do use it in moments of uncertainty. So that does sound like escapism. No, go on. But yeah, with other forms of escapism, that's where I feel like I've improved a lot, because it got to a point where, well, it never got to, it just was at a point where it was very much an avoidance thing. So if there was anything emotional or uncomfortable, anything, I would turn to a vice, you know, and not deal with the issue, not think of solutions, not actively move through the emotions or do what I needed to do to move from it and past it. And I saw this quote, which is so true. It said like, okay, maybe drinking through your problem, not that was my thing, but as an example, drinking through your problem will find you and buy you happiness today, but you are borrowing from tomorrow's happiness to do that, and you will have to pay that off the next day.
I've got so much to say on that, but before we do that, I think we should set some clarity in the room.
Okay.
What do you like? How do you define escapism? Shall I look at the official
Webster's dictionary?
Look
now,
at the official
yeah, go on. Because I would say escapism, and that's what I was going to say, to where it's, you know, finally to say like where it's at a positive place for me now, is I'm more intentional with it. So I would say to myself, okay, for instance, today was a heavy day. I am actively choosing to not deal with it today because I already have an idea of how I'm going to move through it, or I've already kind of done what I needed to do, you know, to work through it in some way, or I truly do not want to deal with this until tomorrow, and then I will do that. So that's when I, you know, go to whatever I'm going to, and it's not really a vice. It becomes a bit more of like a soothing crutch.
Yeah.
But then say if I've got that looming problem and every single day I'm going back to the same form of escapism, or the same thing instead of dealing with the problem, then that would be, I guess, a more negative way of experiencing escapism.
Yeah. And that kind of goes back to how I said at the beginning, like the difference between how I look at escapism in general compared to myself. So on that, the official Oxford Languages says, escapism, the tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy.
Oh, that's interesting. Escapism within the mind, fantasy thinking. Yeah, that's a big one, actually.
So when you mention vices, right? For instance, say somebody that is homeless, right? And they ask for people for alcohol. They're drinking alcohol, however they get their alcohol to consume. They consume their alcohol. And that takes them away from their reality. Like they're escaping their reality for that moment, right? What do you think is the difference between somebody that does that and then somebody that does it just for a feeling rather than their reality? Or do you think there is even a difference?
I don't think there's a difference in terms of what you're getting from it, because what both scenarios are doing is trying to escape their current feeling, their current circumstance in search of a better one. But what I will say is those circumstances are so different. Completely different circumstances. So different, you know, like I can't speak on this because I've thankfully not experienced it. But when you are in that position, what can you do, you know? Like, what are your options? So
why do you think it's judged so harshly? Right, because just in general, I feel like escapism, especially in relation to vices, why do you think it's judged so harshly?
Because I think it is a fact, an undeniable fact, that escapism only provides relief. It doesn't provide solutions.
Temporary relief, yeah.
Yeah, and exactly, the relief is temporary. Like, if you're busy in your life and you're doing some form of escapism, which even could be the gym or something, you know, there could be positive habits, I guess, but you are searching for relief from something. Yeah. And I think part of the negative connotation or it being judged so harshly is because of how quickly it can spiral.
I think that's the danger with escapism, yeah, which is something that I wanted to touch on a little bit, was you could be doing something that is completely manageable. And then after a while, you fall into the routine of doing it so much that it's now become detrimental to you. But you don't notice it because it's still giving you that relief, but you're not doing it for those relief reasons anymore. You're doing it because it's really taking you away from something that you need to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. And again, even the gym, like if there's a issue in your life that you are not emotionally dealing with, you can't underestimate how important it is to feel through things and deal with your emotions appropriately.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, even something like the gym, you can overdo it.
Yeah.
So you might not, obviously there's a lot of health benefits for going for the gym, but if you're not letting your body rest and recover, it's not benefiting you in the way that it should do, right?
Yeah, and looking at your mind as its own entity, you know, you can't solve the mind just by the body. Likewise, you can't expect the mind to get better if you're not using your body correctly either.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balancing act like everything in life, but it's the mind versus the body almost at the same time in that situation.
Escapism is so addictive though. Like even what they said in the definition, I was going to say the dictionary, which I guess I could have said, to be fair, whatever, but either or. Yeah, with that, like even with escaping with fantasy, you know, you can really trap yourself into a mindset, a way of being, thinking about things in certain ways and not dealing with things in reality. Even if you're just, say you have a confrontation with someone or you avoid a confrontation and in your mind you're imagining everything you would say and you're just like, I'll do it next time. The next time never comes, but the problem will always be there. Have
you ever found yourself caught in fantasy?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, I hate to admit it because it's just so, I don't think anyone wants to admit it, but especially in the dating world sometimes or whatever, you can just like over fantasize about the outcomes that you want, that the person that you're speaking to, especially when you're first getting to know them, and it serves no one because that's not real and you're just making a person up.
So has your fantasy ever played out in real life?
No. Not really.
Interesting.
Not really. There would be times where, because there's a difference between fantasy and getting caught in like this made up scenario that you are existing in and enjoying, and a difference between intention setting, you know, and manifesting ideal scenarios. But there's a different energy that comes with that. When you're manifesting ideal scenarios, and when it comes true, there's a level of detachment to it. Like, okay, I would like if this happened, and you feel how it would feel in your body and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, but you see, when you're doing the feeling thing, ain't that kind of like fantasy?
No, because then you detach and you let it go.
Okay.
You're like, I would like for that to happen. And if it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And you've dealt with all the things in the background within you to understand why you want that thing or this, that, and the other. I'll give an example for that in a second, but to clarify the difference. Whereas fantasy thinking, you are literally, depending on how deep into it you go with it, but you are dissociating from the present moment.
Right.
To be in that fantasy and feel the relief from it.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
There was something I said I was going to say, an example.
Yeah, you said you're going to give an example.
I wish I did it when I said it, because...
Don't tell me you've forgotten.
I have. Hold on. It will come back to me.
See what age does to people.
What was We're going to do that on the podcast. Are you... Anyway, we're not going to go there. But what I was going to say in terms of an example. So, for instance, you could be fantasizing about being in a relationship with someone and how much you want to be in this relationship with them and blah, 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 and thinking of all these things, and it gives you all that relief, and it's just not happening. But say if you're intention setting, you're manifesting, you're looking into yourself and thinking of desired outcomes, what I found in the difference with that was understanding why I wanted a relationship. And it wasn't because I really, really wanted to be with that person in that way at that time. What I realized was there was a wound in me that felt like it could only be proof of, unworthiness, or am I really wanted, or proof that you're wanted, that in my head could only be proved by being in a relationship. So that's very different from actually wanting something because you really want it. And when you move out of fantasy and do that reflection and understand why you want something, you can figure out whether that's something you really want. And that's how you work with manifestation, in terms of being on the right frequency and getting what you really need and want, rather than fantasizing about something that seems to soothe a wound rather than dress a wound.
I get it. But are the feelings polar opposite?
Yeah, because when you're fantasizing about something, there's like this desperate energy that comes with it.
Okay.
Because it's soothing. And the same thing happens when you're drinking your problems away or smoking your problems away. It's not coming because you're intentionally deciding to be in the present moment and enjoy it. You are desperate to relieve yourself from the feeling that you're feeling in the moment. Whether that's insecurity, so then you start fantasy thinking, whether that's fear with what might happen and some uncertainty in your life, so you might smoke some weed to feel more calm, or whether that's feeling something else and then going out and partying. It's different.
Yeah. I get what you're saying.
If something takes you out of the present, then that to me is escapism.
Yeah.
Because when you're enjoying yourself through your escapist activities, whatever they may be, and you're taking a break from what you're taking a break from in your life, you're not gone somewhere else in your mind for hours. You're still enjoying things in the present.
So like there's a clear difference between taking a break and escaping something, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Because there's
I'm like, okay. I'm ready for the trick question.
No, it's not a trick question. I'm just establishing something here.
Yeah.
So like, not every time that you're taking a break from something to enjoy something that you like to do, it doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with escapism, right?
No, not necessarily.
So you see, like, how are you within yourself able to differentiate between the two?
So exactly how I said, I guess, like if I'm doing it to avoid something, whether that's a piece of work that I'm not doing and I'm procrastinating, and what I'm really doing and avoiding it is because I don't think I'm actually good enough to do what I'm wanting to do, or I'm feeling insecure about it, then that is escapism. If at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? that was a good day's work or that was a bad day's work, but I just want to, you know, unwind, using this thing to unwind in the way that I liked to unwind with it, with the effect that it gives me because I enjoy it, then that's different from, I don't want to think about this thing, so I'm going to do this thing because I know it makes me feel differently. Like, you're not depending on the feeling that it gives you. You're just there to enjoy it.
So imagine you live in a house now, yeah? It can be any type of household setup, whether it's parents, siblings, or partner, kids, right? You've had a long day at work. You come home and the first thing you want to do is, I don't know, play a game. Play a video game or watch something. What would you class that as? Would you class that as any type of escapism?
Again, it's how you use it. So in that scenario, same thing. You've come home from a long day at work and you just want to unwind.
But you've got the reality of your house to deal with.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say. Like, if you're kind of putting your responsibilities to the side and you don't return to them later that evening, then that would be escapism.
Interesting.
There's a lot of hours, you know, from when you come home and go to sleep. If in all those hours you're watching stuff and playing video games and you haven't done anything that is nurturing for you at the same time, because a break is nurturing for you. But if you've just done that thing and not done those loving things that come from discipline, like setting up your stuff for work the next day, or making dinner and having a good dinner, or even having a good shower to like unwind from the day, that's a form of escapism, I'd say, that I do as well. Like, have a deluxe shower and it's just so, you know, all my favorite products and blah blah blah, but that's not going to take 5 hours.
Would you class holidays as escapism?
No,
or
not
are you going to
really.
say the same thing? Depends on.
Yeah, but scroll up.
Because, you know, like when people say you go on holiday and you just leave everything behind here, you don't think about anything that's going on in your country. Is that not slightly like...
It is, but it's good when you come back and you get back into life and you feel refreshed and you're able to do the things with renewed energy, then that isn't necessarily escapism. But if you come back and you're immediately like, okay, let me just plan the next one. What is it in your life that you just don't like so much that you're living through holidays? That's the difference.
So you see, once you've kind of dealt with that process of it, where you understand that you are actually escaping from something, what steps do you take to deal with it first?
So it's been a long journey. Therapy has helped, I'm not going to lie. But what I do is take some steps before the escapism. Okay. You know, so my journal really helps me. Like, journaling through my emotions is a big tool that I use. Like, I literally journal every day, and outside of that, whenever I need to. And another thing as well, a good example too, like sometimes I'd meditate or do Reiki or whatever, and that would be a form of escapism because I'm just going there to get the good feeling or to feel really relaxed. And even though it's good for me, it doesn't actually affect me positively if I'm not using it to evolve my spirit, but using it to escape my life. And I've done that where I've been meditating because I'm like, oh my God, I just don't want to feel this way. And it didn't actually help. I was just stressed throughout the whole thing because there's something in your mind that's asking for your attention. So journaling is great because you're facing it head on. And sometimes it will just be too much. You know, you could face a truth in yourself that's hard to hear in the moment. So that's when I might put that down and decide to do something else, like maybe talk to a friend, even if that conversation is just a funny, uplifting one, or watch something, have a shower, like to soothe myself if that's what I need. Sometimes I'll just be like, I'm just putting this day to rest and going to sleep.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that. Or I might go to one of my trusty vices, because it's just that kind of a day where I'm like, there's not more I can do with this emotion. Like, I've reached my peak with dealing with this for now, or a solution hasn't come yet, but I've got the right question for what solution I want. So I won't leave it unresolved. I'll know where I'm at with it before getting into escapism. But if it's another moment, like a moment of insecurity or an intrusive thought, and then I've just jumped on TikTok and I'm scrolling, in the moment it provides relief, but it's not helpful, because what you're doing is you are reinforcing that negative cycle where you're avoiding something, so then you go to something else that provides you temporary relief. So you have strengthened the thing that you're avoiding. So when it comes back again, that impulse to avoid it is even stronger, and you've now associated that thing with a sense of relief, but that problem is still there, and you're caught in a cycle. And that's why escapism is judged so harshly, because it's so easy to spiral into that. And it's really hard to come up out of that, because when you do, like for instance, I'm not just now dealing with the thing that I was avoiding, the emotion that I've avoided, which has now automatically been, you know, associated with a habit of avoidance that is now stronger than it was before. Now I've also got a TikTok addiction. And that's the most stupid addiction to have at 30 years old. So
all right, this is a double-sided question, yeah? Number one, do you think it's healthy to have these moments of escapism? And number two, do you think it's unhealthy to do like a hard stop on anything that you do use for escapism?
That's two really good questions. So I'll go backwards. Well, we're going to get a bit crazy, but
I'll let you decide the order. It's cool.
We're not going to get chronological here, but keep the people guessing. But what was the second?
See, I knew you was going to use it, you know. I was just waiting because it reinforces my earlier statement about. Anyway, so the second one was: is it unhealthy to do a hard stop on anything?
Yeah. So the thing about habits is that you can't actually break a habit. You have to replace a habit. Like, there is something there now that exists. So if in your head you're like, today I'm not going to go on TikTok, that's in your field, and what's in your field is in your focus. So all day you're just thinking about not going on TikTok. So you need to have an idea of what you're replacing that with something healthier. Like, this is what I do, this is what I want to do instead. And that's where you do need a hard stop, because the more you do it, the more you're reinforcing it. You can have certain times where it's like, this is my only time to be on TikTok. This is my social media time. And then you can set an alarm, blah, 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 have a hard stop with that and do that. There's, you know, that's one example. There's ways to work around it, do whatever it is for you. But you do need the hard stop, and you also need to replace it with something. Otherwise, it's just impossible, I believe.
Interesting.
And your first question was...
Is escapism healthy?
Again, it depends on how you use it. So if you're doing what you do, or what I sometimes do, which is using escapism actively, intentionally, with an awareness to get some relief from something and escape from it, and then go back to what you were going to do, and you have the discipline and willpower to do that, then escapism can be incredibly healthy.
I guess it all depends on what you're doing as well, right?
Yeah. But, you know, if you're using escapism to avoid certain things, and you're not addressing the undercurrent of whatever it is in you that is using that escapism, then it's not healthy. I think in most cases, the way most people use it is just not really healthy. You can comment if you've cracked the code, but
so like,
we need the help. But most times I don't think it's very healthy.
If you've got a friend that's going through stuff and you can see that they're Like, let's say they're always phoning you, oh, let's go out for a drink, whatever. And you can, like, after a while, you recognize that, this is you trying to escape something. Would you step in, or would you just, you would step in, yeah?
I have done that. Like, there was a friend who was going through a breakup, and they were doing that exact example, like always going out, blah, blah, blah. And I said, are you okay? You've been doing this quite often. Like, you sure it's not a problem?
What, the drinking, or you mean you have got?
No,
got
I said, you don't want, like, are you developing a bit of a issue here?
Could you recognize that it was off the back of the breakup?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was out of the norm of what they usually do. And obviously they're drinking and then talking about the breakup. So what you're avoiding will come out anyway in such unhealthy ways. So yeah, I did call them out on it, and I could recognize it from when I have used escapism. I think sometimes it can be healthy, like when you're first going through something and you just want a good time and to get out of it, then yeah. But again, things develop into a habit, and then you can have that thing there that just exists inside you now and drives you unconsciously. Yeah. And you haven't dealt with it. Or you can be like, okay, that was a great 2 weeks. It's time to like deal with myself now.
That's so interesting that you mentioned that example, because that was one of the, not scenarios, but one of the topics that I wanted to talk on was like, I've noticed it quite often that people will come out of a relationship and then they go through this period of escapism, but people do it in different ways. Obviously, some people go out drinking, some people go to the gym, whatever. Why do you think a loss, in however you frame a loss, can lead to escapism so often?
Another excellent question.
Full of them today, isn't it?
Yeah, you really are. I think loss is so hard because like, what do you feel that with, and what do you feel that with, like talking personally? And what I've seen, when you are going through a breakup, you're dealing with all the what ifs, like what if I need them? What if they're this? What if blah, blah, blah? What if I don't find anyone else? What if they find someone else? What if they were with someone else this whole time? It's horrible. And then there's all the grief that comes with it. I think you're so out of control in those situations, and that can lead, and I think most situations where there's a loss of control, you want to control things in some way. And that's when you can lead to escapism. I think it can be useful sometimes, like it can be nice to go out, but I've also seen so many times, and myself, I've experienced it, where you are dealing with the loss of someone and you go out and you just don't have a good time. You actually don't have a good time. Like, there's the right period to go back out in the world and have some fun, but you really do have to tend to your wounds, because those times where I went out when I was dealing with something, I really was not extroverted. I wasn't in a good lighthearted energy. I was just standing around, not really dancing, just sad and wanting to go home. Because then you want people to flirt with you, but your energy is just like, I need to be alone. And no one does. So then you feel even worse. And you're like, oh my God, all my insecurities are true. I am so unwanted.
That opens a whole nother can of worms.
And that's not true. Yeah, like, it's so hard not to take losses personally, but I think it's such a natural human thing for all your insecurities to come to the surface, which is why you need to be dealing with your insecurities and remember the truth, which is that you are good enough. These things happen. You will find someone else. You've moved into a new frequency. That person can't come with you. There's reasons why you did this. All the good stuff that you need to remember. When you're escaping something and using escapism, you're giving yourself no time to remember those things. So all that's in your head is the horrible stuff.
That's true. Have you seen the consequences of not escaping?
Kind of, actually, because when you're not escaping, you're just in your issue. and you're too close to it, and sometimes you need to take a step back.
Some separation, right? That's why I feel like it's finally balanced. I feel like honestly, I feel like escapism is needed, but it just needs to be managed well. And if you're doing it intentionally.
When do you think it's needed, and how would it be managed well? Even in this scenario we just gave, like a breakup or a loss.
I feel like in a breakup, it's needed because the reality is you feel, no matter what side of the coin you are, whether you're the person that done the breakup or has been broken up with, more so the person that's been broken up with, it's not going to feel great, right? And the reality of it is never going to be nice. Yeah. Unless there's been like a clear defining incident. But if it's just like growing apart or feelings or something of that nature, that's going to make you question whether you're yourself or the person, loyalty, trust, insecurities, all of these things that you mentioned. Sitting in that and not escaping that, I feel that's very heavy on one person at any given moment. So I feel like in those scenarios, escapism, whether it is something like the gym, because you do see that quite often, all of a sudden this person's become a gym person. And honestly, when you're in the gym, you don't think about anything else. You don't think about anything. You're just in there amongst it. I can't even
imagine what the hell.
Yeah, but if I don't know, maybe not everybody, but for me anyway, when I'm in the gym, I don't think about anything. Like it's a different, I'm switched off. And I think if that does apply to other people, I've not been through that whole feeling before in my life, so I can't say for sure. But if that same ethos in the gym does apply to other people, if you're going through something, that moment of escapism, I think is very healthy for your day because it takes away that load for an hour or 2 hour, gives you a bit of reprieve. I think everybody needs that.
Yeah, to be honest. You do. Like even sometimes where I'm in the middle of a problem and I'm just feeling so heavy and overloaded, sometimes I'll spend time with like my siblings or my mum or something, and we'll just be laughing and joking and have some comedy relief, and you do feel lighter. Like you do need to take a moment away from your issue, and when you come back it doesn't feel as it did before, which is why, again, like when you're using whatever you use for escapism, if you go into it with that intention or you're open to feeling differently and putting your problem to the side for a second, then it really can have such a profoundly positive effect on you.
Yeah. Not all escapism has a negative effect, I don't think.
I think there's a difference though. Like I think there's positive escapism things, like things that are guaranteed to make you feel better if you use them in the right way. And then there's some things that are guaranteed to make you feel better in the moment. Gym is one of those things that regardless of how you use it, it's going to have a positive effect on you. You're doing something good for your body. You know, things like going for a walk in nature, it's going to be healing in some way. Like you're never going to come back from it feeling worse. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, and then there's some things like, say, if you have a couple of glasses of wine, you're going to feel better in the moment. And that could make you start looking at things with humor that you wasn't looking at it in a way before. Or if you smoke, it could give you some clarity in the bigger picture of things. So you do go back to your problem differently, but you are also going back to your problem with a bit more tiredness or a slight hangover, or like, you know, you have to still rebuild your energy in some way. It's not exactly going to be as healing as other forms of escapism.
Yeah. No, I get that 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like in the grand scheme of things, you can escape a situation for a time being, but you can't avoid it completely.
Yeah.
Like avoidance is something that I think a lot of people
do so naturally.
Yeah. Like
it's so easy to avoid stuff. Like even if you put everything that you have into work and you're addicted to ambition and work and blah, blah, blah. Where do you draw the line between, are you just using this thing to feel a sense of achievement and accomplishment and better about yourself, but you're not actually dealing with your issues, whether that's, just whatever your issues are.
It takes a lot to deal with your issues, though.
It takes a lot to deal with your issues, but how can you get better at dealing with issues if you never deal with them?
That's a fact.
That's a fact. When I was first not avoiding things, and I did it in baby steps, you know, like avoidance doesn't just go overnight if that's in you. But the first times that I would deal with my issue, it would just be a mess. Like it wouldn't really be, it's not like I had a great journaling experience with incense and music and felt so much lighter. It would just be me crying and scribbling in pages and not even necessarily feeling better, you know. And then through putting that energy there, you learn how to deal with yourself better. So then it gets to the point where you might not even depend on your journal like that. You know what thoughts to bring you back and ground you, which is the point that I'm thankfully at now. But it takes hard work. It's so easy to pick up a phone and vent to the one person that you know is going to vent back with you, and nothing gets resolved and you feel worse. It's so much harder to force yourself to call out like, okay, I'm feeling insecure right now. Like insecure is such an ugly word. Like when you're first admitting that to yourself, it hurts physically. So that's when I said sometimes it actually hurts so much I had to just go to sleep because it was too much. Or when you're feeling grief or loss and you're really feeling it, these things are not easy. Whereas now I can name it and I feel less heaviness with it when I do that.
Is that because of practice? Yeah,
it is practice, because when you're first facing things, and remember, you've been avoiding this thing, so it's become a mountain out of a molehill for you. So when you face it, it's not as big to you anymore over time. So then you're not as afraid of facing your feelings. Feelings hurt. So when you first face them, it really feels like something in you is dying or your world is crashing. It feels
like the worst feeling. yeah.
Exactly. And then you just get used to feeling those feelings, and they don't feel as tough because you've alchemized the stories that you've told yourself.
But that's when you don't allow yourself to be consumed by these feelings, though.
Yeah.
Some people do, unfortunately.
Yeah, you know, like one thing a therapist said to me, and he was amazing, was it's not just thinking about things and crying, it's about how you think about things, you know, like, of course, if you're telling yourself, I'm so stupid, I'm so this, I'm so that, you're going to feel worse. But if you're avoiding sitting with that part and hearing those things, I said this before in the pod, but when you hear the thoughts that you tell yourself, actively hear them, you do naturally challenge them, and you're like, no, that's not true. And you give yourself the compassion, the whatever that you need, and you slowly come out of that habit.
Yeah.
But if you avoid it, though, how do you even know what your self-talk is if you keep drowning it out with something?
Yeah, if you're not having a conversation, you'll never know what the answer is. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, again, it's not black and white. It's different for everybody, right? How you come to that.
And it takes time. Like, it took me years, you know. My go-to years ago was, why did you do that? You're so stupid, like blah, blah, blah. I haven't called myself stupid in years like that. And when I do now, there's less hurt with it because I know I'm not. But I wouldn't have done that work if I didn't do that work.
That makes sense. So, like, do you think what I'm getting from that is the basic way to kind of address the balance of escapism is to make sure that you're not avoiding completely what you're escaping from.
And the tragedy is that you think you can avoid it. Where's it going? Like, where's it? It's in you. You can't avoid it.
Some people out of sight, out of mind.
Give an example.
I don't have one because I don't really operate like that. I like to deal with.
Because it's not true. Like, out of sight, yeah, maybe, but one example actually is out of sight, out of mind. Is say you've broken up with someone and they're out of sight, out of mind, blocked them off everything, gotten rid of all the mutuals, blah, blah, blah. The next time you meet a person, all the stuff that you put out of sight, it comes back.
Yeah, it's true.
It does come back. Living proof, it comes back.
That's the danger.
I was surprised, but it does.
Is that why when some people meet somebody new, they're already holding
painting
these,
them with the
yeah,
same brush.
yeah.
And you can still work on yourself, and you meet someone new, and that can still happen. But because you didn't avoid it, you're better equipped at dealing with it, and you don't sabotage really good opportunities for happiness.
Interesting.
But the opposite is also true. Again, living example, like I had broken up with someone. I did all the healthy things, healthy habits, blah, 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 got into meditation, did some grieving. It was all good, but I didn't deal with the insecurity, the betrayals, the trust that was broken.
Yeah.
The way that the outcome of that made me think about myself. So then when I met someone new, I just couldn't handle it. And even though they told me all the things to reassure me, I literally couldn't hear it, you know? I actually couldn't hear it, and I cut them off, didn't speak to them, really regretted it, but it was done, like it was sabotage now, you know? Because I just saw them with the same hurt eyes. You have to deal with it.
And you recognize that instantly, or did it take some time?
I recognize that in retrospect.
Okay.
When I was actually thinking back to convos, and I was like, oh my God, they asked me to be their girlfriend twice, and I thought they were just drunk and lying. I was like, that's crazy. That is self-sabotage. 101. So,
I hear it, though. I do hear it, because sometimes it's not recognizable.
Not at all. I had a nightmare that didn't even cheat on me, actually. I had a nightmare that they just flirted with someone else, and I was like, it's a sign. And then just cut them off the next day. And a week later, I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
It's crazy that you classed that as a nightmare.
Well, it wasn't a dream, was it? It wasn't the desired scenario. So
I mean, you know.
It was a nightmare. Like, I woke up really upset.
I'm not even going to go walk down that path.
And I was just like, I don't think we're compatible, blah, blah, blah. And a while after, I was like, that's such a shame, because they never will know how I felt about them.
They might now.
Well, I've moved on. But
I bested, I don't even know why I just done that. Trouble.
It's all the past. That's the deep past.
Yeah, no.
I mean, obviously, I did the work. I'm in a better place. But yeah, better. But yeah.
I'm not going to leave you to
Yeah, please be my friend just for a minute.
I'm not going to leave you in that one. Yeah, that has thrown me a little bit.
I have a question.
Go on, please.
Yeah, I will. I want to move on from this moment. But my question, have you ever felt yourself falling into escapism at any point? And how did you recognize that? How did you bring yourself back?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Have I ever felt myself falling?
That's just what we do here.
I have. 100% have. 100% have.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us then. Well.
So like, yeah, no, I have 100%. I'm just thinking about it. And it was like a situation where I would go to a specific location where I knew that I could escape my reality. But when I initially went to this location, I didn't know that would be the purpose of going there. It's only upon getting there and then realizing, oh, I can do this here to free myself from everything that's going on in my life, that all of a sudden I would feel a draw to go there just for that reason.
Like a craving to be there almost.
Yeah, for that reason solely. But nobody knew that's why I was there. I don't even think I knew that's why I was there. I'm only thinking about it retrospectively now.
How did you deal with that at the time?
At the time, I didn't, because it was giving me a lot of relief from everything that I was going through. And because it was mixed with like vices, laughter, friendship, it didn't really feel heavy. It just felt like, oh yeah, I'm just going there to just like relax, let my hair down, see my friends, have a laugh, whatever. But it took a while for me to realize that, wait a minute, what I'm doing is not even, it's not solving anything.
Yeah.
Like, after this, I'll go home and then tomorrow I feel the same way that I did 2 days ago. Like, it doesn't change anything.
How did you stop it? Is that how, like, kind of thinking
Yeah,
about that at the time?
yeah. The reality just hit, and it was just like, you do realize that no matter what you do, the feeling's not gone. Like, temporarily, like, the fact that you have to go there to get rid of that feeling means that the feeling's not gone, right? Because it's still there. So
and then you start depending on it and looking forward to it through your day rather than being present in your day.
But I stopped. I recognized before I became dependent on it, basically, because I don't like to depend on anything.
What was the indicator within yourself that helped you recognize that?
I think I'm kind of like methodical with the way I think in general. And when I realized that I was changing my plans and different things just to fit this in, I was like, and it was having a knock-on effect on what I would do the next day. Like, I might sleep in a bit later, and I'm never a late sleeper. Like, that's just not my story. I'm up early every day.
Early bird. Literally.
And I just saw that it was having a knock-on effect, a real knock-on effect on the rest of my life.
That's what these vices do. Like the example I gave, if you've drowned your sorrows, rightfully and deservingly so, with a couple of glasses of wine, you're not going to wake up the next morning feeling super healthy.
But that's it as well. Like, at the moment when I'm going there, I'm having my little drink and whatever, and it's just like, you don't see it as anything. It doesn't feel like you're doing anything crazy. It's just like you're having drinks with your friends, like you're running jokes with your friends.
And normal. But the escapism, each time you do it, if you think of it like a brick, one brick, you can easily step over it, and you don't realize that day after day you've now built something in your life that draws you in or blocks you away from the problem. You've built a wall around yourself.
It's crazy because the reality of it is, like, once you've dealt with whatever it is you're trying to escape from, because of what I was going to do in terms of just going to see my friends, having a drink, laugh, whatever. When I do it now that I've dealt with everything that I was feeling at that time, I can go and do those things, and it doesn't affect my next day, which is crazy because I'm still doing the same actions, but because that underlying feeling is not there no more, I still wake up early. Like, I still have that same energy, that same bounce. It doesn't feel like you said, it doesn't feel like I've drowned my sorrows and then I've woken up in my sorrows, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, because you're happy to be in your life, there's not something you're avoiding or escaping from it. And when you're out of that bubble of joy the night before and you're in your day the next day, and it's the same as it was when you were escaping it the day before, you do feel heavy in your energy.
Yeah,
you really do.
Literally.
What do you think about comparing or comparison with escapism? Like, say, for example, you're like, well, that person does this every day and they're fine. What's wrong with me? Like, why can't I?
Don't do it, basically. I've never been one to compare myself to anyone because I just realized that you just don't know the whole truth in behind closed doors.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear. That is the truth. Yeah.
Like, you just don't know.
You just don't know. Like, someone said to me today, actually, that everyone is so average. Like, humans, everyone. That's exactly how I was like, speak for yourself. God made me himself. But it's kind of true. Like, no one has this special quality that makes them better than you or more equipped to handle things. And I'll give a vulnerable example. Like, there was someone that I used to, I'm just deciding if I want to be that.
I'm waiting to hear the term that you was going to use, someone that you used to.
I wasn't going to expose the escapist thing, but there was someone that I used to, we had the same form of escapism.
Open to your imagination. Go on.
That's what I'm deciding. Like, is it worse or better to say? to say it or not. So anyway, we'd partake in the same activity every single day. And every day, the morning after, I'd feel heavy, tired, fatigued, like all the effects of the night before. And I'd think to myself, how are they fine? Like, how do they do this day in, day out and are dealing with it? Like, is it just me who has this, you know, this innocent escapist habit that's now turned into a problem? And then when I spoke to them about it and I was like, oh, I think I might have a problem, they told me the exact same thing that I was experiencing, they've experienced too. And they were like, yeah, like there was a point where I had to, you know, take a step back and stop doing this and blah, blah, blah. And I had no idea that that was happening. Yeah. Whereas I was thinking, oh my God, like, what's wrong with me? Like, why am I like this? Blah, blah, blah. Why can't I handle it? How come they're fine? And they were experiencing the same things I were. So even if you have kind of spiraled into something, be open. Don't think that anyone's judging you or you're having a unique experience and there's something wrong with you. They were and they seemed so much stronger than me or more able to handle it or whatever, but I just wasn't seeing their battles and they weren't seeing mine.
That's the thing behind it as well. You feel like nobody's going through what you're going through in that moment. And the reality is you could all be might not be the same thing, but it could be an equivalent feeling that you're all trying to avoid. Yeah, it's very true.
So many people, like, we all share so many of the same demons, you know? So you have to be open. It
comes in different ways.
Yeah.
100%. I agree. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we're at that time of the show.
Whoop, whoop. Word of advice.
You kind of
don't do it. No, I'm joking.
You kind of just set the tone for it with your last few words there. But do you have any words of advice in regards to escapism? Any others, I should say?
Do all things with awareness and in moderation.
Nice.
Thank you.
What would I say to add to that? Yeah, face what you're dealing with as soon as you can, and don't let escapism take over.
And I love how you said as soon as you can, you know, like life is hard. It seriously can be hard. Some people deal with some difficult things. So if you're looking at your plate and it's a little too full, you don't have to eat everything in one day.
100%. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like we're so quick to try and resolve something in that moment, that day. Yeah, like sometimes it takes for real a month.
Got to be patient with yourself.
You have to be patient and loving with yourself. You're a person, not a project.
As you famously once said.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just quotable today. You're coming with all the questions. I'm coming with all the quotes. That's teamwork.
That leads to a great episode, I hope.
Well,
I hope
you tell us, people.
Literally, I hope you enjoyed that one today.
Yeah.
It's an interesting topic, to be fair. Escapism.
There's so many layers.
So many layers to it. I feel we all have elements of it that we deal with, whether it's on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month. But however you deal with it best, just be safe and healthy with it, I would say.
Yeah, mainly. And don't be ashamed of it when you need it. We all need a crutch sometimes. Just make sure it's helping you walk and you're not just leaning on it forever.
Of course. Well, I hope for the last, however long this episode was, took your mind away from everything else. And
a healthy form of escapism.
Literally. So yeah, follow us on our TikToks, our social media. Don't ban TikTok just because Cam's addicted to it. She'll be on there reading your comments. No, I'm playing.
Oh yeah, just kidding around.
No, we appreciate all the interactions that we're getting on there. Hit us up with any suggestions of anything you want us to talk about. If you've got anything going on,
we don't judge. Feel free to share.
Literally, and we've got some exciting stuff coming, I think.
Yeah, we do.
So yeah, keep. What's the word I'm trying to think? Rolling? No, that's not the one.
No, go with that. Whatever that was.
keep with us on our journey.
I want to hear what that was.
And until next time.